She found a human floating in Cryo, but his file said he died 300 years ago, married to her. The cryopod's viewing port was frosted over, but Admiral Sivara Kess didn't need perfect clarity to recognize the face inside. 317 years hadn't dulled the memory of those features. The strong jaw, the dark hair, the small scar above his left eyebrow from a training accident he'd laughed about on their wedding night. Her hand pressed against the cold glass, claws scraping slightly. Behind her, the salvage team waited in the derelict's corridor, but she'd ordered them out the moment she'd seen the active power readings. Some discoveries required privacy. Some ghosts demanded it. James Hawthorne, lieutenant, test pilot, husband for exactly 1 day before a classified accident had made her a widow. Except the biosigns scrolling across her wrist display called that official story a lie. His heartbeat, his lungs drew shallow, cryo-sustained breaths. The man who'd been declared dead on their wedding day was alive. She pulled up his personnel file with admiral-level credentials, her tail rigid behind her. The death certificate loaded first, March 15, 2347, Temporal Displacement Research Facility. Cause: equipment malfunction during classified testing. The same facility name printed on this derelict's hull, the same date she'd exchanged vows under Earth's stars. Her fingers trembled as she accessed the ship's local database. The encryption was old, easily cracked. Project Kronos materialized on her display, schematics, test parameters, volunteer logs. Her enhanced vision absorbed it faster than human eyes could track. Temporal dilation drive, localized time distortion. 3 test subjects aging days while centuries passed outside the field. Faster than light travel without breaking physical laws, just bending them until space folded like paper. She found his log entry dated March 14th, the day before their wedding. If this works, humanity gets the stars. If it doesn't, at least Sivara won't waste centuries waiting for me. Dr. Priest says 3 days subjective, 300 years objective. Either I wake up in the future we built, or I don't wake up at all. Either way, she'll mourn and move on. That's enough. The tablet would have shattered if she'd been holding it instead of reading from her wrist display. He'd volunteered, written his own death certificate. Let them declare him dead, so she wouldn't hope. 3 centuries she'd hoped anyway. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and kept reading. The test results showed success. All 3 pilots had generated stable fields, but the political assessments that followed turned her grief into rage. Coalition pressure, human expansion concerns, Earth's new government agreeing to bury the technology rather than risk diplomatic tensions, test subjects reclassified as casualties, pods scattered across derelict research vessels, forgotten insurance policies against a future need that might never come. They'd stolen his sacrifice, stolen 300 years of the life they should have built together. A proximity alarm screamed through the derelict's failing systems. Sivara's tactical display lit up with 3 incoming ships, military configuration, coalition transponders. Her jaw clenched. Someone had been watching these derelicts, someone who didn't want Project Kronos rediscovered. She slammed her palm against the pod's emergency revival controls. Standard procedures be damned. 30 minutes was all she had, and neural damage was better than death. Warming fluid flooded the system. Stimulants followed, aggressive enough to make her wince. "Voss," she said into her comm, "get the team back to my ship. Incoming hostiles, weapons hot." "Admiral, we can't." "That's an order." The derelict shuddered as weapons fire raked its hull. They weren't bothering with warnings. Sivara drew her sidearm and positioned herself where she could watch both the pod and the corridor. Her ears swiveled, tracking footsteps approaching fast. The pod hissed, pressure seals released. James's eyes moved beneath closed lids. Boots rang in the corridor. She fired twice without looking, placing shots through the doorway by sound alone. Someone screamed. The others took cover. "Stand down, Admiral," a voice called. "We're here to secure classified materials." "By destroying them," she shouted back. "That's a new protocol." She fired again, keeping them pinned while the pod's lid rose. James's chest heaved as his lungs remembered how to pull full breaths. His fingers twitched. His eyes opened, confused, unfocused, then locking on her face. "Sivara?" His voice was rough. "The test. It was this morning. It worked, she said, crossing to him in 2 strides. She hauled him upright, his body responding on training and muscle memory. 300 years, James, and someone really wants you dead for it. His eyes widened, but another explosion cut off whatever he might have said. She thrust an emergency suit at him and started sealing her own. Can you move? She gave him 5. The derelict groaned around them, hull integrity failing. She pulled up a schematic on her display, one route through damaged sections exposed to vacuum, but probably clear of hostiles. How's your 0G? Certified, but that was, he stopped, reality hitting. Hell, your body remembers. She caught his look even through his helmet's display, saw the ghost of his old smile. Is that what we're calling it? Despite everything, warmth flared in her chest. She grabbed his wrist and pulled him toward the breach in the outer hull. Emergency thrusters fired, carrying them across gaps where floors had been. Behind them, the attackers followed cautiously. Her command ship waited 300 meters off the derelict's bow. Voss had disobeyed orders. The ship was still in range, close enough for a desperate jump. Can you make that? She asked James. He looked at the gap, did the math. Not alone. She locked their suits together with a tether clip and wrapped one arm around his waist. Her thrusters fired at maximum. They tumbled through the void, the distance closing fast. Voss matched their velocity with practiced precision. They slammed into the airlock door. Sivara hit the emergency release. The inner door cycled. She dragged James through as weapons fire sparked against the shields. Maximum burn, she shouted. The ship leaped forward. Through the viewport, the derelict exploded, plasma expanding in a sphere that consumed everything. Everything except the man pulling his helmet off beside her, staring at the silver threading through her fur, the Admiral's insignia on her collar, the scars 3 centuries had accumulated. 300 years, he said quietly. 317. His hand reached for her face. She caught it, pressed it against her cheek, let him feel that she was real, that they both were. I'm sorry, he whispered. Don't be sorry. Her voice came out fierce. Be alive. Be ready, because whoever just tried to kill us isn't stopping. His jaw set, disorientation burning away under something harder. She'd married a pilot willing to sacrifice everything for humanity's future. That man was still in there. Then catch me up on 3 centuries, he said, starting with why my death was worth more than the technology I tested. She smiled, all fangs. Because your test worked perfectly, and that scared the right people enough to bury it. She pulled up the files she'd downloaded, let them scroll across the display between them. His expression shifted as he read. Shock, anger, understanding. They left me here, he said. They left all of us here. There were 3 test subjects, 3 pods. You're the only one someone found. His eyes met hers. Someone who happens to be a coalition admiral with enough clearance to access files that should have stayed buried. Someone who spent 87 years petitioning for information about your death. Her tail lashed. Someone who put tracers in every database that might mention the temporal displacement research facility. Someone who never stopped looking. Never. The word hung between them, heavy with everything 3 centuries could hold. He stepped closer, his hands still against her face, and she could smell the cryochemicals fading from his skin, mixing with something underneath that was pure James, exactly as she remembered. We need to run, she said, though neither of them moved. They'll send more ships. Where? Somewhere we can figure out what Project Kronos really was and why they're willing to kill to keep it buried. And then, her smile sharpened, then we make them regret every year they stole from us. The medical bay's scanners hummed as they mapped James's neural patterns, confirming what the cryopod had promised. He was intact, healthy, exactly as he'd been 3 centuries ago. Sivara watched the data scroll past, her tail curled around the base of her chair. She should have been on the bridge coordinating their escape vector, but she couldn't make herself leave. James sat on the exam table, stripped to the waist while the scanners worked. The muscle definition was the same, the small scar on his ribs from a sparring accident still pale against his skin. She'd traced that scar with her tongue on their wedding night, learning the geography of him. "You're staring," he said without looking at her. "I've earned it." His mouth quirked, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. He touched the scanner interface, pulling up star charts with the ease of someone who'd spent his life navigating space. "These systems," he said, "half of them didn't exist in my time. Human colonies? 73 now. You left us with 12. And you?" He turned to face her fully. "Admiral, that's what, 200 years of service?" 243. The numbers hung between them. She'd lived entire lifetimes while he slept. Lost friends, fought wars, bled for promotions he'd never seen her earn. "Tell me about it," he said quietly. "Which part? The first century when I threw myself into military service because it was the only thing that made sense. The second when I started believing you were actually gone." She stood, pacing to the viewport where stars streaked past at FTL speeds. "Or the third, when I decided I'd lived long enough in your ghost's shadow." "Did you?" His voice was careful. "Live beyond it?" She turned. Her ears were flat against her skull, but she didn't try to hide it. "I tried, twice actually. Both times I realized I was comparing them to a memory of one perfect day." Her claws extended slightly, scraping the metal of the viewport frame. Neither of them deserved that. James crossed to her, his bare feet silent on the deck plates. He stopped close enough that she could smell the medical antiseptic mixed with something underneath that was purely him. "I told myself it was better this way," he said, "that you'd mourn and move on and live the life your species was built for. Centuries of it." His hand found hers, fingers lacing through the spaces between her claws. "I didn't let myself imagine you'd spend them waiting." "I didn't wait." The words came out sharper than she intended. "I lived, James. I fought and bled and commanded and earned every rank they gave me. I just did it all while missing you." His other hand came up to her face, thumb brushing the fur along her jaw. The touch sent electricity down her spine. "I'm here now." "For how long?" She pulled back, putting distance between them before she did something stupid like kiss him. "Someone tried to kill you an hour after you woke up. They'll try again. Then we figure out who and why." He moved to the medical display, pulling up the files she'd downloaded from the derelict. "Project Kronos, 3 test subjects. You said the other 2 pods were empty?" "Long empty, decades, maybe longer." His jaw tightened. Either someone found them first, or they woke on their own and ran. Or they're dead and buried somewhere official records will never show. The ship shuddered. Alarms shrieked. Sivara was moving before her conscious mind registered the threat, grabbing James and hauling him toward the bulkhead as something slammed into their shields. "Voss," she barked into her comm, "report." 3 ships, ma'am. Same configuration as before. They dropped out of FTL right on top of us." "How?" James asked, grabbing a handhold as the ship banked hard. "We had hours of lead time." "Tracer." Sivara's mind raced through the possibilities. "On my ship, on me," or she looked at him. "The pod? Or implanted during the original tests?" Another impact. The lights flickered. Sivara pulled up tactical on her wrist display. 3 ships in attack formation, weapons hot, already hammering their shields. "They're not trying to disable us," Voss said over the comm. "They're going for a kill shot." "Evasive pattern Delta," Sivara ordered. "Buy me 2 minutes." She killed the channel and turned to James. "Your neural implant, the one with the Kronos data. It's encrypted, military grade, even by your standards. Which means it's also broadcasting a signal someone can track." She moved to the medical scanner, reconfiguring it. "I can pull it, but not while we're under fire." Then we stop being under fire. He was already moving toward the weapons locker. Sivara caught his arm. "You can't fight. You've been awake for less than 2 hours. I was a combat pilot before I was a test subject." He opened the locker, his hands finding a pulse rifle with practiced ease. "And right now you need someone watching your back." The ship bucked again. Sivara's tactical display showed shields at 60% and dropping. Voss was good, but 3 against 1 wasn't sustainable odds. "Fine," she said, "but you take orders from me." Just like old times. His grin was quick and fierce and exactly what she remembered. Despite everything, warmth flared in her chest. They moved through the corridors at a run, heading for the ship's dorsal weapons platform. It was a blind spot in the automated defenses, designed for manual targeting when computers failed. If they could get there, they could even the odds. The platform's hatch was sealed. Sivara overrode it with her command codes and pulled herself up the ladder, James close behind. The compartment was small, designed for one operator, which meant they were pressed together in the targeting seat. She took the controls, he braced behind her, rifle ready for boarders. "Like the training sims," he said near her ear. "Remember those? The ones where you always crashed us into asteroids." "I got better. You got lucky." Her fingers flew across the targeting interface. The dorsal cannon hummed to life, power building. Through the viewport above, she could see the attacking ships darting through weapons fire, coordinating their assault. "They're professional," James observed. "Military contractors, probably. Or black ops with the serial numbers filed off." She locked targeting on the lead ship and fired. The cannon's recoil shuddered through the platform. The shot caught the ship's port engine, sending it spinning out of formation. "Two left," James said. The remaining ships adapted, splitting their pattern to make targeting harder. One dove below their firing arc, while the other climbed above, standard pincer maneuver. "They're going to bracket us," she said. "Unless we give them a better target." She understood immediately. Her fingers moved to the engineering controls. "Voss," she said over the comm. "On my mark, vent plasma from the port nacelle, make it look like a catastrophic breach." "Ma'am?" "Do it." She fired at the upper ship, deliberately missing, driving it lower. The moment both attackers were in her firing arc, she gave the order. Plasma vented into space, glowing bright enough to wash out sensors. Both ships closed in, smelling blood. Sivara waited, counting heartbeats, her finger steady on the trigger. Not yet. James's hand found her shoulder, steadying, trusting. The ships entered optimal range. Now. She fired both barrels in a spread pattern. The concentrated burst caught both ships, shields flaring, hulls buckling. One exploded outright, the other tumbled away, venting atmosphere. Silence fell except for the hum of cooling weapons. "Status," she called to the bridge. "Clear, Admiral," Voss replied. "No additional contacts." She sagged back against James. His arms came around her waist, holding tight. "That was inspired," he said. "That was desperate." She twisted in the seat to face him, suddenly aware of how close they were, how his heart was pounding against her back. "They'll send more." "So we remove the tracer. It'll hurt. I've had worse." She doubted that, but she didn't argue. Instead, she found herself studying his face, the lines around his eyes that she remembered, the mouth she'd kissed until her lips were bruised. "I missed you," she said, the words escaping before she could stop them. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb tracing the line of her jaw. "Show me." She kissed him then, 300 years of grief and longing and fury pouring into the contact. His hands fisted in her uniform, pulling her closer. Her claws scraped lightly down his spine, feeling him arch into the touch. He tasted like memory and promise, like the past she'd lost and the future they might steal back. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, his forehead rested against hers. "We should get that tracer out," she managed. "Probably." Neither of them moved for another long moment, holding tight to something they'd thought was gone forever. Finally, she pulled back. "Medical bay, before I forget why this is a terrible idea." "This? Us now, with assassins hunting us and conspiracies to unravel." He smiled, slow and dangerous. "Sounds like you're making a list of reasons why not. She wanted to argue, but he was right. She stood, pulling him toward the ladder. "Come on, let's get you fixed up so we can figure out who wants us dead." And then, her ears flicked forward, predatory. "Then we return the favor." The neural extractor's whine filled the medical bay as Sivara positioned it against James's skull. His hand crushed hers, his entire body rigid with pain as the microsurgical lasers carved through tissue. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His jaw clenched hard enough that she heard teeth grinding. Almost there, she said, watching his vitals spike dangerously. When the extractor finally beeped completion, a small metal disc dropped into the collection tray. James slumped forward. She caught him, supporting his weight while sealing the incision. Done. You did good. Lying doesn't suit you, he managed. She picked up the implant, examining the circuitry that held the key to faster-than-light travel. Voss, launch this in an escape pod, random vector, make them chase ghosts. She turned back to James as he sat up, color returning. The temporal displacement research facility, he said, pulling up star charts. If someone's hunting test subjects, that facility knows why. It was decommissioned 260 years ago. So was I. His finger traced coordinates through neutral space. We need answers. She studied the location, deep in territory claimed by no government. Perfect for hiding secrets. It's a trap. Probably. She met his eyes and saw the same reckless determination that had made her fall in love with him. I'll tell Voss to set course. The facility hung in orbit around a dead moon, surprisingly intact for something supposedly abandoned. Sivara brought her ship in slowly, sensors sweeping for threats. Nothing. Just silence. Too quiet, James said from the co-pilot seat. They docked at the main airlock and moved through dark corridors lit only by failing emergency lights. Sivara went first, weapon drawn, ears swiveling to catch any sound. James covered their six, falling into rhythm with her easily despite 3 centuries apart. Fresh boot prints marked the dust. A coffee cup sat warm on a console. Someone's home, James whispered. They found the central laboratory occupied by a single elderly man hunched over holographic controls. He didn't look up until Sivara spoke. Dr. Priest, I assume. His hands stilled. When he turned and saw James, his eyes went wide. Lieutenant Hawthorne, you're alive! Apparently that surprises you, James said, since you declared me dead 3 centuries ago. Priest's face crumpled. I had no choice. They made me declare all 3 of you casualties. He gestured at the laboratory. I've been here ever since, maintaining the equipment, monitoring for your return. I'm the only one who remembered. The other 2 pilots, Sivara demanded. Where? Priest pulled up files. 2 faces appeared, a woman with kind eyes, a man barely old enough to fly. Both recovered by Black Ops 15 years ago, both terminated before revival. James's knuckles went white on the console edge. Why? Because the Coalition couldn't risk what you represented. Priest pulled up technical specifications, political correspondence. Project Kronos worked perfectly. The temporal dilation field was stable, scalable, reproducible. Humanity could cross the galaxy in weeks of subjective time, faster than any species in Coalition history. And that terrified them, James said quietly. It terrified everyone. Priest displayed communications between Earth and Coalition leadership. The other species had centuries to establish territories. If humanity suddenly had superior FTL capability, he trailed off. Sivara read through the files, her stomach sinking. Coalition leadership had pressured Earth's representatives with economic incentives and political favors. Earth, desperate to maintain its position in galactic politics, had agreed to bury Kronos. They sacrificed 3 people for a seat at the table, she said. They sacrificed more than that. Priest pulled up a final file. There were 12 test subjects total, 3 in Phase 1, 9 in Phases 2 and 3, all successful, all declared dead, all hidden across derelict vessels in deep space. James stepped back, his face pale. 12 people, 12 families who grieved, all for a lie. I documented everything, kept backups, maintained this facility in case any of you returned. Priest looked at James. I was at your wedding. I convinced you to volunteer. I've carried that guilt for 3 centuries. Sivara's mind raced. 12 test subjects, 12 potential targets. And now the secret was out, which meant everyone involved would scramble to contain it. We need those files, all of them. Priest handed her a data chip. Everything. Test results, political correspondence, locations of the other 9 pods, enough to bring down everyone who agreed to this. James took the chip, weighing it. This goes public. It starts a war, between humanity and the Coalition, maybe between Earth's government and its own people. And if it doesn't, Sivara asked, how many more die to keep the secret? Alarms shrieked. Priest's console lit up with proximity warnings. 6 ships, military configuration. They tracked you despite the decoy. Sivara pulled up sensor data. 6 ships in assault formation, weapons charging. This wasn't a kill team. This was an execution squad. How long until firing range? James asked. 4 minutes. Sivara looked at the data chip, then at James. We run or we fight, your call. His jaw set. We broadcast everything, right now, every channel, every network, coalition, and human both. We put it all out there before they can stop us. Priest moved to the communications array. 90 seconds to route through all channels. After that, the entire galaxy will know. Then let's give them something to talk about, James said. The first weapon's impact rocked the facility. Priest initiated the broadcast sequence. Sivara grabbed James's hand, their fingers lacing. No going back from this. Good, I'm tired of running from the past. The broadcast began uploading across every network. Files streamed out, test results showing 12 successful temporal dilation tests, political correspondence revealing the conspiracy, locations of the 9 remaining test subjects still frozen in hidden derelicts across space, technical specifications that would let any species replicate the technology. Everything. Another explosion shook the facility. Shields were failing. 60 seconds, Priest said. Sivara pulled up tactical displays. The 6 ships were coordinating their fire, systematically destroying the facility's defenses. They had maybe 2 minutes before the structure came apart. We need to move, she said. Get back to my ship. The broadcast needs 40 more seconds, Priest said, his hands flying across controls. Then we give it 40 seconds. James was already at a secondary console, rerouting power to the shields. Sivara joined him, their movements synchronized despite the centuries apart. She'd commanded fleets. He'd flown experimental craft. Together, they bought the time Priest needed. Broadcast complete, Priest announced. It's out there, every network, every world. They can't stop it now. Then we run, Sivara said. They sprinted through the facility as it came apart around them. Explosions tore through bulkheads, atmosphere screamed through breaches. Sivara's ship waited at the dock, Voss keeping the engines hot. They tumbled through the airlock as a massive blast tore the facility in half. Voss punched the throttle. The ship leaped away from the expanding debris field. Through the viewport, Sivara watched the 6 attacking ships break off pursuit. They were getting new orders, no doubt. The broadcast had changed everything. James pulled up a holoscreen showing the cascade of responses flooding every network. News agencies were picking it up. Government channels were exploding with traffic. The data was spreading faster than anyone could contain it. It's done, he said quietly. Sivara's comm chimed. Her command channel reserved for coalition leadership. She accepted the call. Director Sebastian Vele's face appeared, his expression controlled fury. Admiral Kess, what have you done? My job. Exposed a conspiracy that's cost 12 lives and buried technology that could benefit everyone. You've started a war. No, James said, stepping into frame. You started it 300 years ago when you decided human expansion was too dangerous to allow. We're just finishing it. Vale's eyes narrowed. Lieutenant Hawthorne, interesting that you're alive. That will complicate things. For you, maybe. For everyone. Vale leaned forward. You think you've won? All you've done is put a target on every human in coalition space. Every species that feels threatened by your temporal drive will demand restrictions, reparations, military oversight. You've given them an excuse to cage humanity. Or we've given humanity the tools to stand on equal footing, Sivara said. That was always the threat, wasn't it? Not that we'd use the technology aggressively, but that we'd use it at all. Vale's smile was cold. You'll find out soon enough. Both of you are wanted for treason, theft of classified materials, and inciting interspecies conflict. Surrender now, and I'll ensure you're tried rather than executed. No. Sivara cut the connection. She looked at James, saw her own resolve reflected in his eyes. They'll come for us, she said. Let them. He pulled her close, his forehead resting against hers. Around them, the galaxy was waking to the truth. The conspiracy was exposed. 12 test subjects waited in hidden cryopods for rescue. and humanity finally had proof that their government had traded their future for political expediency. "We saved 9 people today," James said. 9 people who will wake up to a galaxy that knows what was done to them. And a galaxy that might tear itself apart over it. Then we make sure it doesn't. His hand cupped her face. "We've got time now, 3 centuries of it by my count." Despite everything, she smiled. "Only if we survive the next few hours." "We will." His certainty was infectious. She kissed him, pouring 300 years of grief and hope and fury into the contact. When they broke apart, Voss was carefully studying his navigation console. "Course, Admiral," he asked. She looked at James. "We find the other test subjects. We wake them up. And then we make sure the galaxy knows exactly what humanity is capable of when you try to bury us." James's smile was fierce. "Sounds like a plan." The coordinates led them to the edge of explored space, where stars thinned and navigation beacons flickered weakly. Sivara's display showed 3 derelict vessels within scanning range, each potentially holding someone who'd been declared dead for 3 centuries. "Nearest target," James said, pulling up specifications. "Science vessel, Lieutenant Angela Morrison if Priest's data is accurate." "Contact," Voss announced. 2 ships on intercept course. Coalition signatures. 30 minutes if we proceed." James's hand found hers on the control panel. "We didn't come this far to leave her behind." Sivara pushed the engines harder. The derelict loomed ahead, scarred by centuries of impacts. They docked hard, magnetic clamps shrieking. "Voss, you have the ship. If they get within weapons range, jump out." "Admiral." "That's an order." They moved through the airlock in practiced rhythm. The derelict's cryo bay held 1 active pod. A woman's face showed through frost. Peaceful, waiting. Sivara initiated emergency revival while James downloaded the pod data. Lieutenant Angela Morrison, engineer, declared dead March 22, 2349, 315 years ago. The pod hissed open. Morrison's eyes fluttered, confusion crossing her face. "Hawthorne?" Her voice was rough. "Did the test work?" "It worked. 3 centuries worth." Her eyes widened. Sivara helped her sit. "I'm Admiral Kess. We're extracting you now." Proximity alarms shrieked. The coalition ships had arrived early. Weapons fire raked the derelict's hull. They carried Morrison between them, her legs weak from cryo. The derelict shuddered as another blast tore through its spine. They tumbled through the airlock as the structure came apart behind them. 2 more contacts, Voss reported as they cleared the debris. 4 ships total. They're boxing us in. Sivara pulled herself to the co-pilot's seat. 4 ships in diamond formation, weapons hot, interdiction fields active, no jump capability, no shields, and they wanted blood. "Transfer helm to my station," she ordered. Control shifted. Sivara's hands moved through maneuvers that pushed their ship past recommended limits. She dove toward the nearest attacker, using aggression they wouldn't expect. The coalition vessels scattered. She rolled through their formation, forcing them to check fire or risk hitting each other. James worked weapons, his targeting instincts sharp. He caught 1 ship's port nacelle, sending it spinning. 3 left. The hull groaned under stress. Warning lights flashed. But they were moving, weaving through fire that would have vaporized them if they'd stayed still. "There," James said, pointing at a gap. "If we punch through, we'll be in open space with 3 ships on our tail. Better than surrounded." She angled toward the gap, firing everything. 1 coalition ship moved to block. She didn't slow. "Brace!" They hit the shields at full burn. The impact threw them forward. Both ships' shields flared, collapsed, but momentum carried them through into clear space. "Jump coordinates locked," Voss said. "Not yet. Next derelict is 2 systems over. We can reach it first." "Admiral, we're on emergency power. Shields are gone." 1 more test subject saved. Plot the course." James looked at her, then smiled fierce and quick. "You really haven't changed." They jumped. Stars stretched into lines. Another derelict waited when they dropped back, older, barely holding together. "Life signs present," James reported. They docked manually, overriding safety protocols. The cryo bay held 1 active pod. Inside, a man with dark skin and gray at his temples despite cryopreservation. Commander Rafael Torres, navigation specialist, the third original test subject. Torres, James said as they initiated revival. We trained together. The pod opened. Torres's eyes snapped open, instantly alert. How long? 300 years. We're under attack. Can you move? Torres tested his weight, nodded. I can fight. They made it back to Sivara's ship with minutes to spare. Coalition forces were closing again. 6 ships now, coordinating across systems. Kill orders, Voss said. They're not taking prisoners. Sivara studied tactical. 6 ships, no shields, failing power, 7 more test subjects still out there. We can't save them all like this, James said quietly. No, we need help. She opened a channel on a frequency only admirals knew, a backdoor into coalition military networks. When the connection established, a weathered face appeared. Admiral Tarek Voss Sr., her former commanding officer. Sivara, I wondered when you'd call. I need ships, people I can trust. The coalition is killing test subjects before they wake. I know, I've been watching the broadcasts. Half the fleet is ready to mutiny. The other half follows orders they know are wrong. Then help me finish this. 7 more people are out there. He studied her, calculating. If I send ships, I'm committing treason. If you don't, you're complicit in murder. Silence stretched, then he nodded. Nits? She transmitted Priest's data. His eyes widened. 12 test subjects scattered across half the galaxy. This is bigger than I thought. It always was. The coalition buried humanity's future because they feared what we'd become. And now they fear what we already are. His expression hardened. I'll send ships, 3 task forces, 2 test subjects each. You handle the remaining 3. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. If this fails, we're all dead or imprisoned. If it succeeds, we've fractured the coalition. Maybe it needs fracturing. He smiled grimly. Maybe it does. Good hunting, Admiral. The connection closed. Sivara turned to James, Morrison, and Torres. We have backup, which means we have a chance. And if they send everything to stop us? Morrison asked. Sivara's ears flicked forward, predatory. Then we show them what humanity does when you try to bury us. The ship shuddered. New contacts on sensors, 8 coalition vessels dropping out of hyperspace. Not just kill teams now, a full battle group. They're coordinating, Voss reported, targeting solutions locked on all of us. James pulled up tactical overlays, his mind working through the problem. They're spreading too thin. 8 ships trying to cover 7 locations. If we split their attention... We force them to choose, Sivara finished. Voss Sr.'s task forces jump in simultaneously at 3 locations. The coalition battle group has to divide or lose control. And we hit the closest target while they're scrambling, Torres added, leaning over their shoulders. Classic pincer maneuver. Morrison accessed the engineering console. I can reroute power, buy us 1 more jump. After that, we're running on fumes. Sivara opened a channel to Voss Sr.'s fleet. All units execute on my mark. Simultaneous insertion all targets. Make them split their forces. Acknowledged, came the reply. 30 seconds. The countdown began. Sivara's hands moved across the helm controls, pre-plotting their jump. James armed what weapons they had left. Morrison and Torres worked engineering and navigation, falling into roles they'd held 3 centuries ago. 10 seconds. The coalition battle group repositioned, trying to predict their move. 5 seconds. Sivara's finger hovered over the jump control. Mark. Space tore open in 7 locations simultaneously. Voss Sr.'s task forces appeared at 3 derelicts. Sivara's ship jumped for a 4th. The coalition battle group fractured, ships peeling off to intercept multiple targets. They dropped into normal space near a derelict so old it was barely recognizable. Emergency revival protocols initiated before they'd even docked. 2 ships incoming, Voss reported. 4 minutes. Get them out in 3, Sivara said. She and James moved through the derelict at a dead run. The cryo bay held a single pod, inside a young woman with red hair. Dr. Elena Park, astrophysicist, Phase 3 volunteer. The revival sequence completed. Park's eyes opened, disoriented but alive. Welcome back, James said, hauling her upright. We're in a hurry. They made it to the ship with seconds to spare. The Coalition vessels opened fire as they cleared the dock. Sivara pushed the engines into redline, the ship screaming in protest. "Jump drives fried," Morrison called from engineering. "We're stuck on conventional." The Coalition ships closed in. Weapons fire hammered their failing shields. "Incoming transmission," Voss said. Director Vale's face appeared on screen, cold and furious. "Admiral Kess, stand down. This ends now." "You're right," Sivara said. "It does." On her tactical display, 3 new signatures appeared. Voss Senior's task forces completing their extractions, jumping into support. 9 ships against the Coalition's remaining 6. Vale's expression shifted, recognizing the trap. "You've committed treason, started a war." "No," James interrupted, moving into frame beside Sivara. "You started it when you buried 12 people to protect a lie. We're just finishing it." Morrison, Torres, and Park crowded into view behind them, living proof of the conspiracy. "The entire galaxy is watching," Sivara said. "Every network is broadcasting this. You can kill us, but you can't bury the truth anymore." Vale stared at them, at the rescued test subjects, at the fleet that had mutinied to save them. His finger moved toward a control. "If I can't have the technology, no one—" The transmission cut as weapons fire from his own fleet disabled his ship. A new face appeared. A Coalition captain Sivara recognized. "Admiral Kess, Captain Miranda Stone. I'm relieving Director Vale of command under emergency protocols. His orders were illegal." "Captain Stone, good to see some people still have a conscience." "More than you think, ma'am. Half the fleet is standing down. We won't fire on our own people for doing the right thing." Sivara looked at James, saw exhaustion and triumph in equal measure. "How many test subjects recovered total?" Stone checked her display. 8 confirmed alive and extracted, 3 lost. Pods failed over the centuries, but 8 is a victory. 8 people who'd sacrificed everything for humanity's future. 8 people who'd been declared dead, buried, forgotten. 8 lives saved because 2 people refused to let the truth stay buried. James's hand found hers, fingers lacing together. "We did it," he said quietly. "We did." Around them, space filled with ships as more fleet elements stood down, refusing to follow orders they knew were wrong. The conspiracy was over, the truth was out, and humanity finally had the stars. 3 weeks after the last test subject was recovered, Sivara stood on Earth's orbital station observation deck, watching humanity's first temporal drive ship take shape in the construction yards. The vessel gleamed under arc lights, its hull inscribed with 12 names. James's arms wrapped around her waist from behind. "They're calling it the Morrison," he said, "after Angela." She earned it. Below, the Coalition Assembly was in emergency session. 3 governments had fallen. 2 species had withdrawn. Humanity had gone from junior member to equal partner overnight. "Vale's trial starts tomorrow," James said. "He'll spend life in prison." She turned in his arms. "And us, what are we?" "Unfinished business." She kissed him, slow and thorough. 3 weeks of exhaustion and victory poured into the contact. His forehead rested against hers. "I've been thinking about what comes next." "The temporal drive program needs pilots." "Torres signed on, Morrison too." He pulled back, searching her eyes. "But I keep thinking about something else." "What?" 317 years ago, I married you. We had one night before I volunteered for a test that should have started our future." His thumb traced her jawline. "Instead, it took that future away. You lived 3 centuries while I slept. You became an admiral, fought wars, built a career I'll never catch up to. I need to know if who you've become still wants who I am." Her ears flattened. She stepped back, tail lashing. "You think I spent 3 centuries mourning a memory? That I rescued you out of obligation? I think you loved who I was. I'm not sure you know who I am now." "Then you're an idiot." He blinked. She closed the distance, fisting his shirt. "I loved you because you were willing to sacrifice everything for something bigger than yourself." Her voice cracked. "And you just spent 3 weeks doing exactly that. Fighting impossible odds, rescuing strangers, risking your life for a future you might not see. You think 3 centuries changed me so much I can't love you? It changed me enough that I finally understand what I have. Someone who sees me as an equal. Someone who stands beside me. His hand covered hers. I needed to hear that. Good, because I'm not saying it again. He laughed, genuine and quick. So what now? What does Admiral Kess do for an encore? Resign my commission. His eyes widened. What? I've served 243 years. I've earned the chance to have a life with my husband. You'd give up your career? I'd give up anything for you. She pulled up a holographic display showing a world on the edge of human space. Green continents, blue oceans, cities glittering at night. I've been granted a homestead there, 200 acres of coastline. She met his eyes. Unless you'd rather sign on for the temporal drive program. James studied the hologram, then her. I spent 3 centuries believing I'd given you the stars. Maybe it's time I gave you something better. A life where we actually get to grow old together. I'm already old. Then I have catching up to do. She smiled, sharp and fierce. You really want to play house with an alien admiral on a backwater colony? I really want to be with you, wherever that is. The kiss was different this time, not desperate, but full of promise. Alarms chimed on her wrist display. Tell them we're busy, James said. She smiled slowly and closed the alert. What do you say we disappear? Let the politicians sort out our mess. How long? 30 or 40 years. He laughed, pulling her closer. I have that much time to make up 3 centuries. You have that much time to start. She pulled him toward the exit. They moved through corridors hand in hand. At the shuttle bay, a vessel waited. Sivara took the pilot's seat. James slid beside her. Together, he asked. Always. The shuttle lifted into open space. Earth hung below. Ahead, jump coordinates locked onto their world. She looked at James. I love you. I should have said it more often. You have time now. We have time. She engaged the jump drive. Space folded, carrying them toward their earned future. They dropped out of jump. The planet filled their viewport, green and growing. James squeezed her hand. This is what I was trying to give humanity, not just the stars, but the time to enjoy them. Then consider it received. She brought the shuttle down through atmosphere. Their homestead sat on a cliff overlooking endless ocean. They landed as the sun set, painting the sky orange and gold. 317 years, James said, and we're finally home. Finally home? He pulled her into his lap and kissed her with 3 centuries of longing. Her hands tangled in his hair. His grip tightened on her waist. Outside, the sun sank below the horizon. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she rested her forehead against his. Welcome to our future, she whispered. Our future, finally. Stars emerged overhead, the same stars that had witnessed their wedding 3 centuries ago. The galaxy would keep turning, humanity would keep expanding, but right now, none of that mattered. They had each other, they had time. She kissed him again, slow and deep. Take me inside. James smiled, wicked and warm, lifting her as they moved toward the exit. Yes, Admiral. I'm not an admiral anymore. No, you're just mine. Just yours. The homestead door opened. Inside, a fire burned in the hearth. The door closed behind them, sealing out the galaxy. James carried her through the threshold, his mouth finding hers. Her back hit the wall beside the fireplace, his hands working the fastenings of her uniform. She tugged at his shirt. Slow down, he murmured against her lips. We have time. I've waited 300 years. I'm done being patient. He laughed. His hands slowed despite her protest, deliberately gentle as they traced her body. Then let me make the wait worth it. She growled low, but let him set the pace. His fingers found the sensitive base of her ears, stroking until her knees weakened. His mouth traced down her neck. The fire crackled beside them. Outside, waves crashed against the cliff. James lifted her, carrying her toward the bedroom. She wrapped her legs around his waist, her tail curling around his thigh. 300 years of grief and longing crystallized into this moment, skin against skin, breath mingling, hearts beating together. I love you, he whispered against her mouth. I never stopped. Even in cryo, even dreaming, it was always you. Show me. He did. The night stretched long, filled with whispered promises and stolen breath and the slow rediscovery of what they'd lost. Every touch was a reclamation. Every kiss was a vow. When dawn finally broke through the windows, they lay tangled together beneath blankets. Sivara traced idle patterns on James's chest. "Was it worth it?" she asked quietly. 300 years for this? He caught her hand, pressing it over his heart, every single second. She smiled and settled closer. Outside, their new world waited. Somewhere out there, the Morrison was taking its first test flight. 8 rescued test subjects were rebuilding stolen lives. Humanity was claiming its place among the stars. But here on this cliff overlooking this ocean, 2 people torn apart by time had finally found their way home. The galaxy had tried to bury them, had tried to steal their future. But they'd clawed their way back, together. 317 years they'd waited. And it was worth every second.